Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a fine Sunday evening at the time of recording this, but it probably won't be up till Monday. So hopefully you're having a good Monday. Anyways, just got done watching my second time through of Fight Night, Vegas 80, aka UFC Dawson versus Green. And the reason I did a second watch through of it was that, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I had a scheduling conflict, so I didn't get to see the first part of it. And then even during the broadcast, of course, I was going over to the Bellator 300 broadcast a fair amount. So I missed a fair amount of things. So I wanted to get a full review, a full idea. That being said, I do think it poisons the nose so much. Because, like, I'll give you an example. For the Vanessa Demopoulos versus Murata fight, I knew that Demopoulos wins, air quotes, and that a lot of the community believes Murata won. So I was like looking at it through that lens, which is a bit interesting, but I didn't get to watch the fight like without knowing who won or who won to add the air quotes to it. Let's talk about Bellator 300 and ONE FC or ONE Fighting Championship or whatever its official name is at this point. We're going to talk about it. All right, Bellator 300. Let's get that out of the way. Not a great card. The three main fights were pretty predictable. Usman Nurmagomedov outmaneuvered Brent Primus. Was able to largely win pretty much the entire fight, the full 25 minutes, but at the same time without ever like impressing me, because everything he's done, everything he did to Brent Primus is things that we had seen done to Brent Primus beforehand. He, realistically, the loss to Islam Mamedov looked kind of similar to this. The loss to Michael Chandler looked similar to this, but like less exciting. And as a result, I don't know, it didn't really help his stock at all. And maybe I'm just like negative on Usman because I feel like Usman Nurmagomedov, as have many of the Nurmagomedovs, Dagestani fighters, Chechen fighters, whatever, anyone that has the look, the vague association with Khabib Nurmagomedov gets this like hitched up, right out of the box, hype wagon of this guy's going to be great. This guy's going to be amazing. And it kind of ignores the idea that like the reason Khabib Nurmagomedov was as good as he was and is not that he is from the magical land of Dagestan. Don't get me wrong, the fact that the Dagestanis start very, very early, the fact that they live a life with very little in the way of like distractions and, let's be honest, options, does lead to funneling people into becoming better and better fighters. But like the reason Khabib was able to destroy people and become a UFC world champion and be a go to the lightweight division and be like the best lightweight of the world for a time and be a guy who people to a degree legitimately, but I legitimately and unlegitimately consider like the GOAT of all time of MMA, is that he was a freak athlete. That he was just an insane athlete. That he was a guy who, like that Ally Quinn fight he had was a perfect example of this. Like a guy who would go out there, do his B game, or if not even his B game, his C game, go out there and still win. And while looking clumsy, uncoordinated, untechnical, all the way through, but like at the same time, it just works because he was doing it faster, harder than generally speaking anyone's ready for. I was having a conversation with a guy on Twitter /X about what would Charles Oliveira beating Islam Makhachev give him a better resume than Khabib? And like part of the short answer is no, but like the long answer, part of the long answer was talking about how like Islam Makhachev is a bit of that like Khabib is better than him, that Khabib just has physical gifts that Islam does not have, and that he's going to, if they fought, Islam would get run over. Essentially, that's from the horse's mouth. That's from like Islam and his coaches, and it makes sense because you have two guys who have gone through the same training. Essentially, the Dagestani coaches back in Dagestan into the AKA system over in the United States of America, where they've learned the same things. And at the end of the day, one is a better athlete than the other. So while Islam Makhachev, for example, has slightly better technical boxing, the same with like Usman or Nurmagomedov here, they don't have what made Habib Habib. They're still very, very good. Still very good. Islam's got a UFC title. Usman's got a Bellator title, which means something. But I feel like they just get that hype train, like that steroided hype train attached to them. When like realistically, if you look at Brett Primus's or you look at Habib's Usman's record here, beating Brett Primus, 38 years old, beating Benson Henderson, 38 or 39 when he beat him, beating Patricky Pitbull, a guy who is notably flawed and like also was 36 at the time. And then like we're back at like Chris Gonzalez with the front stroke victory and so on. And it's like Chris Gonzalez is not a bad fighter. That is not a bad win by any means. Is that a bad win? But it's not a particularly good win either. Like it's a guy who had lost to Goto Yamaguchi before that, and now has lost to Tim Wilde since. And, whose biggest wins are Saeed Awad, the ghost of Roger Huerta, and the very young and very I just have no real faith in Max Roshkov. I guess is what it comes down to. Like a guy who, in my opinion, actually does legitimately have like he ticks the physical boxes. Tick 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 tick. He's a good technical fighter or whatever, but like there's just something missing from him. And it's like, what has he done to really deserve this hype? Like people are like, he's good enough to be a UFC champion. He's good enough to be a top 10 lightweight in the world. Not really. He's good. He's good. You are not a bad fighter if you beat Brent Primus. But it is what it is. And then, of course, he had the whole thing with like not wanting to shake Liz Carmouche's hand. And I think it's not a big deal. I want to make that clear. People are having a cow about that. Like, about like the religious, F your religious beliefs, basically. And it's like, all things considered, this is a religious belief that doesn't really hurt anybody right now. He did it respectfully. He didn't even like give her like the cold shoulder. When I saw the video, I was surprised because I was legitimately expecting like he was gonna like because I saw the reaction to it before like seeing the video, and they're like I was just expecting more, and it's just like perfectly respectful. I don't get it. Anyways, before that we had Chris Cyborg in the co-main event, destroy Kat Zingano. I have ended up being like a Cyborg defender to a lot of people. I want to make this clear. I think she did steroids. I think her legacy as a result is tarnished, but because of it, because steroids are illegal, and in theory, the fighters she's fighting are not taking them. Whether that's actually the case or not, different story. But like she did cheat, she did break the rules, she got busted. She probably has used it continuing on from that. Like there's a physique there that is just very difficult to attain. And like it or not, a lot of her game is like power, explosiveness, and so on. Things that you could build through steroid usage. I get that. I understand that. But like there's a lot of critiques about her that just don't seem to extend to anybody else who's gotten busted with steroids. Like in the lead up to this fight, Kat Zingano's whole thing was like, she's afraid of me. She won't do third-party testing. That's bullshit. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, sure that is. But like, hey, Kat, are you demanding everybody do third-party testing that you fight? Because if you're not, like there's a non-zero chance that everyone's doing steroids, including yourself. It was to me just a bad look. Like if you want to be the one to beat Cyborg, you want to get that clout. Frankly, you want to beat the juiced up Cyborg. Beating a non-juiced up Cyborg, I don't even know what that would mean. Like specifically, like let's say for a moment here, like it's the steroiding is as bad as people think it is, and Cyborg comes out there looking deflated, looking non-muscular, looking unpowerful. Let's say that's the case. Let's say that's what we got rolling out here, and then you beat them. What does that mean? What does that mean? So like I was rooting for Cyborg to destroy Kat Zingano, and I thought she would, and she did, because frankly, Kat Zingano's highlight of her career is beating getting her ass beat by Amanda Nunes until Nunes gasped, because back in the day she did that a lot, and then winning, and beating like I guess Miesha Tate, but like that's like it. It's like it's not interesting, and like and admittedly this is the problem for like Cyborg, is that there's just very very few interesting fights. Like realistically, there are 2 fights interesting for Cyborg, and that would be a fight with Kayla Harrison and a fight with Larissa Pacheco. That would be it. And I would pick her to win both those fights, but like those are the interesting people who can like on a raw physical level compete with her because like Zingano is a blown up 135er. Of course she can't compete. Liz Carmouche versus Ilima-Lei McFarland was painful to watch, not in the sense that it was like particularly bad. It was bad, but it wasn't particularly bad. It was kind of what I expected, but it was like there was a point where like the leg was compromised on Ilima-Lei McFarland. It's like she's up against a friend. She's up against somebody that has shut down her game entirely at this point. She can't win the title because she missed weight. Why are we still out there? Like your fighter is clearly compromised. Why do you not throw the towel in? And this comes up a lot when it's like, okay, you have a fighter out there, and it just ended up being worse because like the leg eventually gave out and she got TKO by leg kicks. Like, congratulations, you let her stay out there for what, 2 rounds more, and she just got hurt worse and still lost. I don't get it. I will say that the highlight of this card for me was the Bobby Cerrone the third versus Alberto Garcia fight. That was dope. That was fun. That was for 2 guys who have 5 professional fights. It's great. Like it's a fight that shouldn't probably be happening on Bellator, realistically speaking. Like these guys should be fighting in, I don't know, LFA, CFFC, maybe even a smaller regional like Fury FC, Victory FC. Trying to remember the one that is Calvin Cater's Combat Zone. Like I would love it in that case. Like that would be an incredible treat if I was like live at any of those shows and a fight this good came on, or even like watching it. A fight this good came on, but like it doesn't feel very Bellator. Liam McCourt dominated Cedric McMahon, did a great job there. And then like there's not much else. Like Henry Corrales versus Kai Kamaka III, that was good. Slim Trubisky picked up a TKO by injury. I can never say his first name, but Yag Shamirodov beat Marcel Rozansky. That was fairly decent, like for a 205 fight of like journeyman. That was fine. That was great. It's fine. I didn't really get the idea of putting Romero Cotton up against Grant Neal. And Jenna Bishop picked up an armbar over Arya Stark, Ilara Joan, or however you say her name. And then over on the one card, you had Thon Lee picking up a pretty cool submission via heel hook. We're going to talk about heel hooks later. Daniel Williams lost to John DeBella. That was fun to watch. Senchai won as well. Shinya Aoki got heel hooked by Mikey Musumeci. And then the rest of this I don't really particularly care about, other than I will say that I was very, very, very wrong to say that Timothy Nastyukin was going to beat Li Peng Zhang, because he did not. He got knocked out in 3 minutes and 18 seconds. So that brings us to the UFC card. Let's crack it out here. Main event, Bobby Green versus Grant Dawson. And there's not much to say here. This is a very quick first round knockout by Bobby Green. It's not surprising. We've seen Grant Dawson hurt very early in fights before. This is not anything new in that regard. It is kind of weird. I said this in my preview. I don't know what to make of Grant Dawson, because I look at him and he's actively bad, like just actively bad as a striker. What I mean by that is it's not that he isn't technical. It's not that he's learning. It's not that he's seasoning. It's that he has like all the wrong reactions, instincts for striking, that he just probably never will be good at it. And it's kind of weird because he got to the point where like, he's top 15-ish lightweight in the UFC, top 20-ish probably in the world. And it's like, this guy is horrendously in a division where you don't really get away with this. He's horrendously one-dimensional, and he's not some amazing athlete. Like, he's a good athlete. He's a fantastic athlete, but like, he's not like a mutated freak. Like, how is this ever going to work? How is this going to be a good thing? How is this going to, at the end of the day, actually work for him? And Bobby Green knocked him out here. I picked him to win. I want to be clear on that. I thought he would win because Bobby Green is a guy who doesn't really knock people out. 1, 2, loses a lot of decisions he should probably win. So having a guy who probably will get long periods of time in control on the ground is a recipe for a decision loss, if not a submission loss. And he just went out there and he just bombed him. It's pretty cool. But I didn't really learn much. Like, it's just like that was on the table anyways. For next opponents, I've got Bobby Green against Dan Hooker. Like, they're kind of in the same place. They're both like semi-well-known names in the sense that they've been around for a really, really long time, and as a result have a little bit of a fandom following that probably outstrips their actual talent. They're both exciting fighters. They're both tough fighters. They've got that veteran savvy. They're guys that, we probably actually want to, say for like testing people before they move into the top 5, kind of like this fight here. But like, at the same time, I would love to give them like a little bit of a shine, give them like a co-main event on a fight night or a pay-per-view main card spot. That'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty good. And for Dawson, I've got Drew Dober because essentially with Dawson at this point, we're just testing him against guys who are not going to instantly get taken down and who hit hard. And until he solves that problem, there's not much else to do with him. So Drew Dober meets all of those criteria, and he won on the earlier in the card. Joe Pyfer versus Razak Al-Hassan. I was actually really, really impressed with Joe Pyfer on this one. I picked him to win this fight, and it was like an obvious one for me. But like he went out there and he showed off instantly with the deep shot takedown. Very explosive shot. Very good. Very, very good double leg. Very good double leg. Instantly going for the transition with the arm triangle and trying to make things happen. Like beautiful. Loved it. Fantastic. It was dope. It was great. It was phenomenal. Even threw in like a pair of like slam takedowns in there. Like it's very impressive. Worked in a little bit of a body kick game that I like to see. It needs work. Like it doesn't have the snap you want to see on it. It doesn't have the power you want to see on it. But like it's an element of his game that I hadn't noticed before. Maybe it was there, but I hadn't noticed it before. And now that he's doing it, it makes him much more than just like a big puncher. Like now he's a big puncher who diversifies, attacks the body, and can work into some submissions, and apparently has a really, really good arm triangle because Razak Al-Hassan is a guy who I want to say has never been submitted before. I could be wrong. He's got 6 losses. Split decision loss to Buckley, decision loss to Malkoun, knocked out by Chaos Williams, decision loss to Munir Lazez, and decision loss to Omar Megha. Yeah, so a guy who has never been submitted there, is a judo black belt. He went out there and got the job done. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. I completely forgot he got knocked out by Chaos Williams. Yeah, no, this was good. This was amazing. Is there things to work on? Absolutely. Razak Al-Hassan in the second round was starting to have really good success with the low calf kick. Don't get me wrong. I imagine getting kicked by Razak Al-Hassan in the calf absolutely sucks. Look at the size of that man's legs. Look at the snap he throws in those kicks. It's going to suck. But at the same time, that is a weakness. There are some defensive issues there. He doesn't like being pressured. There was a moment in the second round where Razak Al-Hassan finally got the front leg. And don't get me wrong, Pyfer kept moving his head, kept doing things, aware that he had to avoid incoming fire. He doesn't, wall up. He doesn't break. But he clearly is very, very uncomfortable on the back foot. So that's an area to work on. After the fight was a little bit cringe. He had a whole thing with the US flag where he's like, America. I'm not going to repeat the full thing. And then in a press conference afterwards, he was like, I feel really, really good about bringing out the flag there. And I get to, represent America against Africa and beat them. And it's like, Razak Al-Hassan, yes, I believe is born in Ghana, although for the record, Tapology has it being born in Minneapolis. But like, there is no competition between American and African MMA. If you know what I mean? Like the only notable African fighters that train in Africa, I want to be clear on that, are basically like the Team CIT guys, which is Dricus Duplessis' gym. I mean, like Cameron Simon, and then you got a couple other guys that are coming up and I think are on, have dates on Dana White Contender Series. So there may be more of them. But like outside of that, there is no one in the UFC who trains in Africa. And if you were to add up all the people who train in Africa over time, you get the Neil Waynes, you get the Themba Garimbas, you get the Dolce Lunchambulas. There's like very, very few. So like the idea that like there's any pride in doing that, it'd be like me representing Canada in hockey. Be awesome, be dope. It'd probably be a great experience, but I wouldn't be like trumpeting about it. Like, hey guys, I represented Canada in ice hockey, and we went down to Ghana and we beat them in ice hockey. No, it's just a given. Like that's just a given. And then like again, regardless of where Razak Al-Hassan was born, like if you look at his competitive background, you get into the judo, like it's Judo America stuff. My guy is American, realistically speaking. Like he's not born here, but it's like kind of like saying my dad isn't Canadian. My dad wasn't born here. My dad was born in the fabled, now gone country of Yugoslavia that has been divided up into like 7 different countries. But like he came here at the age of 7. His education is Canadian. His athletic experiences, Canadian. His values are Canadian. It's like, it would be it would be very, very, very silly. And that's, I'll leave it at that. I'm just going to chalk it up to Joe Pyfer being a guy who used to be homeless and has probably forgotten a great deal of his education, if he even had it, because, like, let's be honest, some of the education system is quite poor. For example, people are like rating him about like, yeah, you represented your country against a continent. Anyways, I've got for our next fight, I've got Joe Pyfer versus Nasruddin Imavov. That might be a bit of a high step up for him, but I do like that idea. I like it because Imavov is a guy who is big and has some range control tools and does like to put the pressure on forwards. Like I said, Pyfer doesn't seem like a guy who's totally comfortable on the back foot. Having him against somebody who probably has the tools to put him there will give us more of an exciting idea of what that is. Maybe that's too big of a step up. Maybe the UFC wants to just like kind of keep promoting, playing the softball. Maybe, but he's not undefeated. You can do things like he can take a loss. He's a guy who I think is mentally tough. Like I think he'll learn from a loss versus like being broke by it. And then for Razak Al-Hassan, he's 38 years old. I hope he's pondered life after fighting. I hope he's set up to like retire. It's not that I'm not interested in seeing him fight. I still am. Like I'm as much interested in seeing him fight as I was when he debuted in the UFC. Like dude's a big hitter. He's a physical freak. He's not super like technical or anything, but like I don't mind it. And you can put him up there against Marc-Andre Barrio. Alex Morono versus Joaquin Buckley went essentially like I thought it was. Morono never really found any like long-term, like consistent, repeatable success. Like he had moments, but Buckley was out there showing off good cardio. Actually, had a phenomenal third round. Might have even 10-8'd it, but he had Morono hurt a number of times. He was landing a lot of good stuff. He was showing off some competitiveness. Didn't really love him going like, I love the UFC and I love Dana White because it's just cringe to me. I'm sorry. It's just cringe. But yeah, you know what? It was a fun fight. It was good. I would love to see him fight Chaos Williams. Second Chaos Williams name drop in the podcast. And for Morono, I've got Brian Battle because Brian Battle is a tall guy who I haven't seen be given like any like kind of trouble at range or like realistically thoughtful attacking of his ability to be at range. And Morono does provide that. So let that happen. Drew Dober knocked out Ricky Glenn. I don't have much to say about this. This was like it was just a sad fight. Like it was just Ricky Glenn getting used as a freaking punching bag and getting absolutely destroyed, absolutely rocked, which is what I expected to happen. So like, Dober, congratulations, Drew Dober, on becoming a father. It's great. You got a victory here. I've got you against Grant Dawson, like I said. And for Glenn, I think he probably needs to try to get back to 145. I know it's a bad cut. I know it's a rough cut. I don't really recommend it for his like long-term health. That being said, I would also not really recommend continuing to fight for your long-term health if you're Ricky Glenn, because my guy takes a lot of beating, takes a lot of punishment in these fights, and there's not really much way around that. He's just kind of small at 155, and he's not a particularly amazing athlete. He's not a particularly great wrestler. He's not a particularly technical striker. He's not a particularly great grappler. He works really, really hard, puts up a pace, really tough dude. But like, man just got out there and just got melted. I don't know. Like he's a tough test for anybody. So I don't really have a guy for him, but like he's a guy that I guess you put him in there with like the youngsters, the young guys coming up who are like really good athletes, the Alex Hernandez types, because we're going to talk about Alex Hernandez in a bit. And we find out what they got. Bill Algeo versus Alexander Hernandez, 145 pound fight. Like I said, Alex Hernandez, 145. Not the answer for you, my man. Not the answer. Don't get me wrong. I don't hate you at 145. I think you're big at 145. I think you're pop. I think you have a higher ceiling at 145. I do. But your ceiling is dictated by the fact that you need to at some point learn to get past the fact that when you just don't blow someone out of the water and you get pushback, you become incredibly predictable. There's not much there. Bill Algeo was looking like a defensive genius out there against you. He was rolling the head. He was avoiding your shots very, very well, blocking what little else came in, stabbing you with the jab, let it work, dropped him in the second round. Yeah, he poked you in the eye twice, but hey, that's how it goes. And it was also like thumb knuckle to the eye, as opposed to like a Austin Lane style, I am going to reach out and rip your eyeball out type of thing. So like, I don't have much else to say about this. It's Alex Hernandez being Alex Hernandez, and it's Bill Algeo being Bill Algeo, which was my prediction. So I'm happy about that, and I won some money off of it. But there's not much else to really talk about there. It's just, it is. If you've been paying attention to both guys' career, the fight went exactly what you would think. After the fight, Bill Algeo called out Billy Quarantillo, which is my next matchup for him because let that happen. But he also cringely called out like Fauci and Zuckerberg. And I want to be clear here: when I'm saying cringe for calling out Fauci, this is not a pro-vaccine stance. This is not a anti-vaccine stance. This is not a you need to kowtow out of my way thinking of vaccine. It's like you're calling out a man in his freaking 60s, if not 70s, to fight you. Why? Why? What would that prove? What would that prove? What would that prove? Nothing. Absolutely dick. So there you go. And then the Zuckerberg thing, same thing. What would that prove? Dick. It's not going to happen. Why bother? Why waste the call out? It's just crunch. And for Hernandez, I have him like just taking some time on the shelf. Like I don't think he got injured here. I don't think he got beat up. But like I said, the problem with Alex Hernandez, if he is going to break through, if he's going to become better than he currently is my guy has to get out there and figure out what he's doing. I don't even what gym is he at? Because I want to say he's at a pretty good gym too. Factory X Muay Thai. Yeah, he's at Factory X Muay Thai. That is not a bad gym. Why? Why is this guy like this is a gym that it's got Rob Wilkinson. You've got Anthony Lionheart Smith. Like these are guys who are flawed. Don't get me wrong. They have problems. Brandon Raw Dog Royval is at that gym. Brian the Predator, Professional Predator Rogers, Blast from the Past, Yusuf Zalal. These are all guys who have flaws and problems and things that do not work. I want to be clear on that. But they don't have Alex Hernandez's problem. So I'm very confused as to what's going on there. Every so often, there's a guy who's at a gym that like it feels like it should be working, and it's just not. And this is a case of that. So I don't know. Maybe it's time to change gyms. Maybe it's time to look elsewhere. I don't know. Someone's got to get through this guy on a mental level. It's not necessarily a technique level or a physical level. It's just mental. Speaking of mental, Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Diana Belbita. I swear I didn't set up that segue. For a long time, I had been saying that Kowalkiewicz was done because she couldn't take a punch anymore. Like she had been confronted with her own mortality, and it kind of broke her. In the last couple of fights, she's finally found a way to stop doing that. In this fight, she did it again. She went in there, she poured on the volume, she out-volumed Belbita in every round. I scored every round 4. If you scored the first round for Belbita, I don't agree, but it's not an egregious scorecard. And she went out there and she kept pouring it on more and more and more as the fight went on. Aggressive, taking shots, and just keep going forward. She's found the old Karolina again at 37 years old and is having like this resurgence as a fighter. It's awesome to watch. There you go. There is a concern though. Like, I mean, for a girl who has been really, really good in clinch in her career, amazing clinch fighter, like Karolina Kowalkiewicz is a person who broke Rose Namajunas in the clinch. It's what she does. The fact that she wasn't able to get a lot done here in the clinch against Diana Belbita and even got taken down and even got controlled at points in the clinch by Belbita, who is, not a super good clinch fighter, not a super strong clinch fighter, is concerning. It is a worry. It is a concern. But she went out there and she got the job done. She got the win. She got the W, and it feels good. Also, I won money on it, which always feels a little bit better. As for her next opponent, like I would love to see her fight Tecia Torres at some point, but I'm aware that Tecia Torres, of course, took time off to have a baby. I think she's had the baby. She's probably still on essentially the equivalent of MMA maternity leave, so I assume that fight would be too far off in the future. So let's pencil in Ilima-Lei maybe as an next opponent. That would be kind of interesting. 2 of the better clinch strikers in the division. Maybe the 2 very best with Joanna Jędrzejczyk gone, honestly. And let them have that fight. That feels great. That feels awesome. That's dope. And for Belbita, I think the idea of having her fight Bruna Brazil would be pretty good. Because like the thing with Belbita is like, what do you do to test her when she's like so long? Like, to be clear, I thought Kowalkiewicz was like too much of a step up. Like, it's like, congratulations, you beat Maria Oliveira. Woo! Here's Karolina Kowalkiewicz. That's magnitudes of stepping up. I mean, I guess you could argue that I'm kind of doing that to Joe Piper, but I don't know. Bruna Brazil seems like a fun fight. Nate Maness versus Mateusz Mendonça. Mendonça was looking pretty good here. He was doing what a lot of people do to Nate Maness, pressure him, put him in the clinch, get him tied up, and just kind of let it go to work. Put some excellent body work into there. It was fairly 50-50. I'm not saying he was dominating or anything. Maness was getting his stuff back in. But then he dropped for a leg lock. I don't think you should really ever really drop for a leg lock in general. But he's going for the submission hold. He's got both legs actually there. He's got his choice, left or right leg. You can do both. You can do either. But he's trying to do both. He's trying to do like the heel hook on both of them, the knee bar on both of them. That's just wrong. You're not going to do that. It's not going to happen. He's just getting pounded. And eventually he gets pounded out by Nate Magnus. So I still don't like Nate Magnus at 125. I hate it. I don't like it. 5'10", cutting down to 125. It's insane. It's ridiculous. Nothing about this fight was like him being a flyweight, realistically speaking, because like Mendoza is himself like a 135er who is coming down to 125. And I don't love that move either, but like I like it more. And I mean, I guess this begs the question of like, what are either of them going to do? Assuming they're fighting at flyweight, continuing, I'm going to go Nate Maness versus Francisco Figueiredo. Let that happen. Let the lesser Figueiredo take him on, see what happens. And for Mendoza, I've got Dennis Bondar because they're kind of in the same boat of two guys who came up being like physical bullies and destroyers of worlds. And they can't do that in the UFC because they're not that athletic. They're not that physical. They're not the Khabib Nurmagomedov, essentially. So as a result, I have to inevitably go with, that is a fight because there's only room for one of them. In my opinion, it's kind of the problem. Kanako Murata versus Vanessa Demopoulos. This is, of course, the fight that has sparked a lot of controversy judging-wise. Here's what I think. I had the first round going to Demopoulos. She was aggressive with the grappling. She landed a nice one or two nice high kicks in that round. She had a couple later on, though, as well. Also, just Murata was like kind of like giving all kinds of bad body language. Like there was a bit where like it looked like she didn't get hit, but like she completely stumbled and ended up on her butt. And then like Demopoulos caught one of her kicks, and like Murata got off balance off that and fell on her butt again. So like I get it, I understand it. The volume of strikes landed was actually like incredibly similar. There was a decent armbar attempt from Demopoulos, but she ended up on bottom with like in the guard. She was throwing rapid punches. Murata really needs to learn to be active on top and throw strikes because as much as funny in the second round as the double like hammer fist shots she was landing were, they're incredibly inefficient, and they're like leaving all kinds of like openings and time for Demopoulos to work her like shots from the bottom. And that I think is what lost her the second round, because in the second round it's 4 minutes and 11 seconds. 4 minutes and 11 seconds of 5 minutes of Murata being on top. And I'm kind of interested here. Let me quote the UFC stats. I had a strike difference of 7 in favor of Demopoulos, but they're like all from the bottom. They're not significant strikes. If I pull it up here on UFC stats, they had it 9 strikes to 9 strikes, significant, and 35 to 30. So they actually had it even closer than I did. I scored this fight all the way for Murata. Don't get me wrong. It was not a good round. It was not a good fight in general for Murata. There's a lot to take from this. In a way, I'm happy she lost because she can take this as an L and be like, I have to improve. I have to change some things. And I have to do what I did in the third round, which was amazing. Third round, she comes out. She's getting the takedown. She's working the top position. She's giving up on the double hammer fist thing. She's actually working just like standard ground and pound, which is frustrating because she knows how to do that. You're aware of it. You know. Admittedly, her biggest problem going forward is still the same, though. She's small. She's essentially an atom weight. She's 5'1", 62-inch reach. Don't get me wrong. She's a physical specimen at 5'1", but like 5'1" and like 115, you need to be really bricked up. And like I convinced myself that wasn't the case because I talked about Vanessa Demopoulos being realistically a 105er, because I also think Vanessa Demopoulos is realistically a 105er. If the UFC would just do it. Because I see all the pictures of her like flexing and like, oh my lord, there's a gun show there. But then you see her in the cage. It's like, you're smaller than Vanessa Demopoulos. This is a major limiting factor. But like, I hope she learns that she needs to be more aggressive. Like, I hope she learns that she needs to be round 3 of this fight, Kanako Murata, because the second round should have gone to her, didn't go to her. I get why it didn't. It still should have. This is the bad judging of the night. But I have to treat it as a Demopoulos win, so I've got her against Jillian Robertson, because Jillian Robertson's debut at strawweight went poorly, in a word, against Tabitha Ricci. And let's see what she can do with that same seemed kind of tense. Like we're kind of rewinding it, sending it back on that same matchup, just with like a lesser version of it. And for Murata, I've got Ariane Carnelosi, because that's another person who I think is having a bit of a come to Jesus moment about what happens when she can't just get her way, when she can't just dominate. And I think they're both kind of at that same page. Johnny Munoz versus Arichi Lang. I need Munoz cut. I need him cut. I don't usually advocate for guys to get cut off of 2 straight losses. Because normally I'm like, you know what, we want to give him more of a chance. But like, one, here's the facts. Johnny Munoz is 30 years old. He is pretty big bantamweight, actually. But like, my guy has lost to Tony Gravely. He has beaten Jamie Simmons, Ludovic Shalunian. How did he beat Ludovic Shalunian? By the jab. And then he's completely lost the jab. And lost to Santos and Arichi Lang. Like, it's bad. It's really bad. He started well in all 3 rounds of this fight. He would catch Arichi Lang with like something cool coming in, like a big like bonking shot, and it was pretty good. And he had a first round where he had like back control for a good chunk of it and picked up that round. But then in the second and third, it's just like, okay, Arichi Lang had to deal with the fact that he would get bonked at the start of the round. But that's about it. He would cage grind him. He would take him down. He would be the guy in control of the positions. He would outstrike him badly. He would outgrapple him badly. And it's like, what is Munoz supposed to be doing here at all? Like, my guy has gone from a guy who looked like he was developing a decent boxing game behind a jab. I was actually moderately excited about him before he lost to Willie Cat Santos. I was like, oh man, this guy's got a good jab. He works to the body. He's doing some good things. I like what he's doing. Like, it's a very incomplete game, but like, I like where it's going. And then it's like, it's completely gone. It's completely gone. And like, and he's like in there complaining to the ref about things that are happening, which may or may not be happening. And it's like, you can't do that. Like, why? I mean, I know Alex Hernandez later on in the night got like a stoppage by like claiming he got poked in the eye. But like, if the ref is saying no, just leave it be, man. Just leave it be. It's not working. Arichi Lang, I have fighting Raul Rosas Jr. I want to be clear here. Hear me out on this one, because a lot of people are going to be like, that's too much for the 18-year-old Rosas Jr. That's too much of a step up. The UFC's not going to do it. I do agree the UFC's probably not going to do it, but like, I think this is the fight, because at points here, Arichi Lang gave Munoz the things that allow him to be successful. And the things that allow him to be successful are kind of similar to what Raul Rosas Jr. honestly wants to do. So it's like, okay, this is a guy with a little bit of a name, a little bit of reputation, a little bit of skill. And the problem is, if you're going to have Raul Rosas Jr. in the UFC, he's going to be fighting someone who has something for him most of the time, unless you're going to do the Sage Northcutt thing. And to be clear, it didn't work for Sage Northcutt. It didn't work. And I think Sage was a more potentially better fighter than Raul Rosas Jr. Come in here, and you give him Arichi Lang, a guy who is going to let him have his game. He's going to give him the chances to make his game work. He's probably going to beat him. I'm going to pick him. But it's a nice test. And for Munoz, like I said, cut him. Like, he's not retaining the stuff that he's learning. It's not there fight after fight after fight. And he's not even really a good test for cannon fodder, because he fights so freaking weird. Like, he's a guard puller, essentially. And it's like, well, that's not going to work. That's not going to tell me anything about some young prospect off the Contender Series or tough if we do it again. Like, it's just not going to do anything. Montana Del Rosa versus JJ Aldridge. I'm going to run down Montana Del Rosa's coaching here for like a hot second. This is a fight she could win, but she like didn't do her wrestling. It's a thing that it's a fight that she may have honestly won. I scored all 3 rounds for Aldridge, but they were all 3 rounds that were very, very close. It's a classic example of like, yeah, it's a 30-27, but like the 27, yeah, could have won. You just need to see some of these exchanges like a little bit differently. She's not wrestling. She's not trying to use her jiu-jitsu. She's trying to use her range striking game, which is by far the weakest part of her game. It's not good. Don't get me wrong. I kind of get the logic behind it. She's 5'7" with a 68-inch reach, which at flyweight is pretty exceptional. but she's not doing what she needs to do. And it's kind of weird because she's at Elevation / Genesis BJJ. Like those are the two camps she's working with. It's like Elevation's a good gym, very good gym, a very solid gym, and Genesis BJJ is a BJJ school. And why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Why are we not maximizing what Montana De La Rosa is actually good at? Why are we maximizing? Why are we making things the exact fight that she's not supposed to win? Like she was closer than needed here, but like, and you if you scored it for her, that's cool, that's fine. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not super high on JJ Aldridge's performance here, but it's like, why are you doing this? And I think time off. Figure it out. Change gyms. I don't care. Figure out something. Because, like, honestly, and you can say, like, well, she's limited by, like, where her husband's willing to go. I think they've been doing wrong by Mark De La Rosa as well. I think he's also a guy who, like, isn't fighting to, like, his strengths. So it's a double failure. They both could use a new place. And for JJ Aldridge, I got Teresa Bleda. Super raw prospect, but, like, big, strong. We'll try to clinch with Aldridge. Aldridge is hard to bully around in the clinch. Make that happen. Go do that. Find out what happens. Because Aldridge, unfortunately, is as much as I think she's like trying to, like I said in the breakdown, she's trying to be the best version of JJ Aldridge that she can be. She's trying to be the best JJ Aldridge that can exist at a UFC level. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I think that's amazing. But that level is unfortunately still very mid. That's just kind of like that's just kind of the problem. That's the physical limitations that sometimes catch up to you and make things happen. So there you go. I'm kind of curious. Who were the three judges who scored the Murata fight for Demopoulos? Cologne, D'Amato, Lee. Yeah. Why am I not surprised it's any of those guys? Why am I not surprised? Chris Lee is terrible. Sal D'Amato is terrible. It's been like for a very long time. Eric Cologne is inconsistent. I'll put it that way. Anyways, yeah, that's what I got. I hope you enjoyed. Check out the links down below. And I'll be back. There is a UFC next weekend, right? Am I wrong on this? Am I mistaken? Oh, UFC 294. No, it's a UFC Fight Night. Here we go. Yusuf Zalal versus Edson Barboza. Interesting. I haven't really looked at this card. Jennifer Maia, Vivi Araujo, Jonathan Martinez, Adrian Yanez, Andre Petrosky, Michelle Pereira, Edgar Shirez, Daniel Lacerda, the rematch, Cameron Simone versus Christian Rodriguez, TJ Brown, Darren Elkins, Irina Alexieva versus Melissa Dixon. I am not familiar with Melissa Dixon. I have heard some good things, but I don't think I've actually seen her fight. Chris Gutierrez, Haile Alatang, Emily Ducote. Oh my God, Ashley Yoder is still around? How? Why? Why is this a thing? She's 8-8. She's 8-8 and 35 years old. Please, people. She lost to Jin Yu Fry last time out. Like, come on. She lost to Jin Yu Fry. Please. What is their best win even? It's literally, I think, Miranda Grazier and Siri Kondo. Oh, that's bad. Why? Why is someone who is 3-7 still around? Yeah. Terrence McKinney versus Brandon Marotte. I know Marotte is a very recent signing, late replacement. Tanera Lisboa, who, was someone I didn't think was very good coming in and like actually looked pretty good last time out. She's fighting Ravena Oliveira, who is not bad. And what did we lose off this card? Lisboa was originally supposed to face Daria Zelenzenikova, who is not very good. I'll say that. So that's an upgrade, having her fight Ravena Oliveira. David Dvorak versus Tetsuya Taira. Damn, that was a good fight. I'm sad that one's gone. Ronnie Yaya versus Haile Alatang. We lost that. We still have Alatang. Peja was supposed to fight Barrio. Barrio withdrew. Chris Duncan was supposed to fight Terrence McKinney. Duncan had visa issues. That's a little surprising. You don't usually see Scottish fighters with visa issues. But anyways, it's another UFC at the Apex. And check out the links down below for more of me and the video gaming and the nerding and so on and the mixed martial arts. And, I think you'd enjoy the fighting sim. Till next time, have a good day.